Hey guys, Weiss here. Welcome to another video. If you're new to the channel, please rock that subscribe button. It is super helpful. Let's talk about the PlayStation today. The PSX, the PS1, the PlayStation, whatever you want to call it, the PlayStation was an incredible console with some amazing games. It was cutting edge when it came out. It really brought 3D gaming into the fore. But we're not talking about those kinds of games today. We're not talking about Resident Evil or Metal Gear Solid or any of those other groundbreaking games for the PlayStation. We're talking about classics collections, arcade classics collections for the console, because there were a bunch of them, and you guys know I love retro gaming, just 80s. I'm nuts about 80s gaming, 90s too. And the PlayStation had some unbelievable collections, just compilations of a bunch of games, just several games on a disc from 3 to 6 or 7, just incredible. Love me some PS1 arcade compilations. So I'm going to be counting down my top 5 of all time, and when I'm done counting down the 5, I'll show you a few others in my collection just to show you ones that just barely missed the cut or didn't quite make it or whatever. So let's get to these top 5 through 1. And oh yeah, at the end of this video, at the very end, I'll show you guys a cool commercial for my NES Omnibus Volume 2 that is out now. So without further ado, let's get to it. Number 5. Namco Museum Volume 2. This is an awesome disc, great games. I'm sure all of you guys know, most of you, about the Namco Museum collection on the PlayStation. This is a really special collection to me. The reason being, believe it or not, it's what pushed me over the edge to buy my PlayStation back in the day. Not, within the first couple of years of the PlayStation coming out, maybe that first price drop. I picked up a PlayStation, not just for the Namco Museum collection, because it was very obvious the PlayStation had a lot of great games, but that was a big deciding factor in me getting one, because just the notion of, these discs that had 5, 6, 7 games on one disc, great arcade perfect ports. I grew up when you had to pay $30 to $50 for one, bad arcade port, or at least not very faithful arcade port. So to get, these arcade perfect ones that are just absolutely amazing, no-brainer for me, these Namco Museum collections. And number 5 at my list is Volume 2. It's got Super Pac-Man, which is probably my 3rd favorite game in the Pac-Man series after Miss Pac-Man and Baby Pac-Man. Yes, I do love Baby Pac-Man, the pinball arcade, maze game hybrid, but don't get me started, because we are talking about arcade collections. Don't get me started on Baby Pac-Man. It's also got Xevious, which is an amazing game. It was the first vertical scrolling shooter in the arcade that let you shoot airborne as well as ground-based targets. Great shooter. It's got Mappy, which is a bouncy platformer. Cute, charming, fun game. And I really like Gapless a lot. It's a Galaga sequel that's unbelievable. Gapless, I don't even remember this game in the arcades back in the day. I discovered it later on this PlayStation collection, and it's just as good as the original Galaga. It's amazing. So I highly recommend Namco Museum Volume 2. It's also got a couple other games on it, Dragon Buster and Grobda. Haven't spent a whole lot of time with those. So if you guys like those games, let me know as well. That was number 5. Next up is number 4. The Atari Anniversary Collection. This has a lot of games on it and a lot of great ones. It's got Asteroids and Asteroids Deluxe, which are 2 of my favorite games of all time. Asteroids I mastered back in the day, just got ridiculously good at it because I played it so much. It was at the convenience store near my junior high. And then Asteroids Deluxe came out a short time later. It was a more difficult version of Asteroids because people got too good at Asteroids, and Asteroids Deluxe came out because people were spending too much time playing Asteroids on one quarter. And Asteroids Deluxe was more difficult. Love both games. It's got Battlezone, the solid tank shooter. Like that game pretty well. And then Black Widow, the double stick shooter. A lot of you guys have probably played Black Widow, the recharged version for modern consoles. And the original is on this collection if you want to check it out. It works great with the dual analog sticks on the PlayStation. It's got Centipede, obviously a great game. Gravitar, the gravity-based shooter. It's got Missile Command, one of the all-time classics. It's got Pong, Space Duel, Super Breakout, Tempest, one of the great shooters of all time, the tube shooter I call it. and Warlords, one of the most amazing 4-player games of all time. A great party game, just loaded down with classic stuff. Now, the controls for this collection are hit and miss. You know, you don't have a great trackball for the PlayStation. There was a third-party one, but it's not great. But anyway, it's still a killer collection of games, and Black Widow was a deciding factor in making this hit my top 5 list, along with Asteroids and Asteroids Deluxe, because they play beautifully on this collection, and they're some of my favorite games. Next up, at number 3, is Williams Arcade's Greatest Hits. This is a phenomenal collection of games, and it even has Bubbles on there, which is okay, but that's not on like the Super Nintendo or the Sega Genesis, I believe, version of this game. So on the PlayStation, they throw in an extra game for you, and they're arcade perfect, unlike the Genesis and Super Nintendo versions. You've got Robotron 2084, one of the greatest shooters of all time, and a lot of people cite this as their favorite game of all time. I think I recall John Hancock saying it's his favorite or one of his favorites, but it's a killer twin-stick shooter. You've got Defender and Defender 2, aka Stargate, great side-scrolling shooters. Defender really paved the way for the side-scrolling shooter genre. Excellent game. I never got great at Defender or Defender 2, but I still love playing them. Joust, phenomenal game. It's my son is getting so much better than me at arcade games. You know, he's in his mid-20s, and for a long time when he was a kid, he could beat me at, you know, more modern games, but I would still, you know, trash him at early 80s games or late 70s games or whatever. But he's starting to pass me by on some of those, but I can still kill him at Joust. But the only reason is because he doesn't like it, so he doesn't play it. But if he did, I could beat him. Or the few times he has played, I've beat him. Love that game. Sinistar, the Sinister. It's a perfectly named Sinistar because it's a sinister shooting game. Just incredible stuff, guys. Check out Williams Arcade Greatest Hits. Great stuff. Number 2. This is a heavyweight. This is just a ridiculous collection. It's not huge, but it's got some of the greatest games of all time. Namco Museum Volume 3, another great Namco collection. It's got 6 classic arcade hits, including Galaxian. Now, I'll admit, some people don't like Galaxian a whole lot because Galaga is a much better game, and there's some other shooters that are more involved, more exciting, you know, similar shooters that just have a lot more going for them, like something like Phoenix. But Galaxian to me is still a lot of fun. It's got great aiming and timing of your shots. It's got some cool strategies, you know, where you shoot all 3 ships as they're coming down. Still a great game. I love me some Galaxian. And it's got Miss Pac-Man, as I told you guys, is my favorite game in the Pac-Man series. Some days it's different. Some days it's Baby Pac-Man or Super Pac-Man. But I love Miss Pac-Man. It's one of my favorite Pac-Man games and one of my favorite maze games. It's just so incredibly polished, so great. Pole Position 2, a great arcade racer, so colorful and had incredible graphics back in the day. I remember when the first Pole Position came out, the graphics just seemed unbelievable for the time. The colors, the realism, it just looks like it looks pretty simplistic now, but it still looks great, even if it doesn't look like much compared to the photorealistic Gran Turismo type games. The Pole Position and Pole Position 2 are still fun, colorful, exciting games. You're speeding up, you're slowing down, you're trying to get past your rivals. Great game, love it. Going as fast as you can without crashing. Next up on this collection is Dig Dug. You guys know Mr. Do is my favorite game of all time, and Dig Dug is in my top 5 because it's similar to Mr. Do. And which came first, the chicken or the egg? Dig Dug was released first, but Mr. Do was in production at the same time. Regardless, Dig Dug is an amazing game where you dig your own tunnels and you blow up creatures. Love that game. Fozon I don't really spend much time with, or the Tower of Draga, but for those other games, Namco Museum Volume 3 came in at number 2. Just ridiculous. Next up at number 1 is an arcade classics collection that I spend more time with than any other classics collection for any other console, and that is the Konami Arcade Classics Collection. This is my favorite arcade compilation for any system of any era. Just unbelievable. And the main reason I love this is because of Time Pilot. Time Pilot is one of my favorite arcade games of all time. It's just got such amazing gameplay. Your ship is affixed to the middle of the screen, but it scrolls in all directions, and you can turn in all directions, And it's just got such great balance. It's got such rhythmic gameplay. You can stay on a stage for a long time if you want to rack up points, but that gets dangerous. And it's fast and it's fun. You go through different eras of time. Just an incredible game. And it's got one of my other favorite games of all time, Scramble, the remarkable, colorful, side-scrolling shooter. I remember playing Scramble and Time Pilot at the local mall arcade back in the day. Great memories of those, and it's great to relive them on the Konami. My son always says I say that wrong. Konami. Let's go with Konami. It's got some other amazing games on here as well. Poo Yan, a really unorthodox shooter that's like no other game that I know of. I'm sure there's probably some clones or something, but just an amazing game that you really have to play to really appreciate. Just unbelievable shooter. It's got Circus Charlie, which is kind of an interesting, I guess you could call it a platformer, where you jump through rings of fire and you jump over obstacles and things. It's a lot of fun. Rock and Rope, I used to play that on the ColecoVision a lot. Now on the ColecoVision, it had 3 screens. It's a climbing game, or a non-scrolling platformer if you prefer. Loved it on the ColecoVision, but it just had 3 screens. You can play the original arcade version that has all 4 screens on this collection. It's got Yi Ar Kung Fu, the really early fighting game. It's got Road Fighter, which is not a fighting game, it's a racing game, and it's okay. And it's got Super Cobra, which is similar to Scramble, but it's a helicopter game. And I believe it's a sequel to that title. And it's got Gyrus. Great shooter that I did enjoy on the ColecoVision back in the day and in the arcades. A lot of these games I grew up playing in the arcades. You know, I was an arcade rat in the late 70s and early 80s. There was a time there when my brother, when he turned 16 and got his car, and I was, 11, 12, 13. For the couple of years after he got his car, we would go to Malibu Grand Prix every single Sunday night. And we would go a lot of Saturdays to the Land of Oz arcade. We just had so much fun playing these games. What a killer collection. Konami Arcade Classics. If you've never played Poo Yan, if you've never played Circus Charlie, if you've never played, surely you've played Time Pilot, right? But you guys have got to play these games. Scramble is still one of my favorite side-scrolling shooters of all time. Even with advances in the genre, like R-Type and Einhander, and much more modern ones, Scramble is still just absolutely phenomenal. And I remember what was really interesting about Scramble with the PlayStation. When you get low on fuel, it starts vibrating. And I remember the first time this happened to me, it kind of shocked me a little bit. It kind of startled me. And I thought that was real cool. And then when I played Resident Evil with the vibrating controllers, the director's cut of Resident Evil, holy cow. Take that up to a next level. But anyway, for me, I discovered the whole vibrating mechanism, or at least, experienced the first time by playing Scramble. Great stuff. Like I said, guys, it was tough to boil it down to 5 compilation discs for the PlayStation Great Arcade Classics collections, because there are so many great ones. Check these out, guys. Just a ton of them. I mean, look at this. Arcade Party Pack. It's got freaking Smash TV on it, and it didn't make the cut. This Midway collection has some of my favorite games on it. Root Beer Tapper and Moon Patrol. But there were just too many. I mean, look at this, guys. Buster Brothers collection. But there are too many to choose from. The Longbox Raiden Project. I could talk about all these all day, but I will leave you at that. Let me know in the comments what you think of the PlayStation, these incredible Arcade Classics collection. Let me know in the comments which is your favorite or your top 5 favorite. I would greatly appreciate it. Now check out the commercial for the NES Omnibus Volume 2, which is now available. I will leave a link in this video where you can purchase your own copy. Thanks, guys, for watching. We will talk to you in another video.